Hope you're enjoying a NAMPO virtual so far. It's been a couple of days. It's been good fun, and I hope you're seeing a lot of the exhibitions that are on offer as well and learning a lot and sharing a lot. I'm Tony Ndoro. Good to have you with us. It's time to talk sport, switch things up a little bit. And I'm glad to say I've got two fantastic guests, two former fly halves as well. We've got Vlok Cilliers, who's joining us via Skype, via Zoom. He's in France at the present moment, hence he's wearing that France jumper. So we'll forgive him for that. Vlok, good to have you with us. Tsimba as well is here with me. Most of South Africa knows you guys. So guys, thank you so much for joining me, former fly halves. And the aim of this conversation, guys, Vlok, I want to start with yourself. I mean, let's talk about you. I mean, you were 80 matches for Western Province in the 90s. You picked up a buck cap as well against the Barbers as well. And then you turned into a specialist coach. That's the conversation I want to have. You're a kicking coach now. Talk to me about that transition.
No, definitely. Thanks, Tony. And hello, Kennedy. And thanks for being on the show. I'm just to correct you, I'm still in Stellenbosch in Cape Town. I'm leaving for France the 26th of September. Then I'll be heading over for the remaining of all the test matches. Yes, Tony, it's, I think I was the first guy in 1994 that Heineke approached and asked that you have this idea of putting together a professional coaching team to coach the Bulls those days, and you want me to be part of this as a full-time defensive coach, a full-time attacking coach, and a full-time kicking coach, and would I be interested in joining them? So it was also quite new to me as well, but I must say I learned a lot, and I can remember a lot of people judge me or judge Heineke for appointing a full-time kicking coach, but I must say it's a good road and a long road and one I will always remember.
Hey, that's interesting. We're saying people were judging Heineke at that particular point, Ken. I mean, you both you guys used the boot a lot yourself for the Cheetahs and also for the Bulls. But for people watching at home, they thought it was just a natural talent. You know, naturally you should be able to kick. But it's not that easy, is it? There's a technique. There's so many things that go into that.
Yeah, it's quite a process, and I think Vlok would know in terms of, I think they were ahead of their time in terms of now specialists are starting to come through, which means that back then it should have started. You know, when you look at the rugby back then, we would just have a forwards and a backline coach, and that was all. But now everything has started to separate, and now you have defensive coaches. You've got almost a contact specialist. So it really is becoming more professional, closer to what American football is like. I think that's where it's going, and I think it helps players in a big way.
Vlok, let me come back to you. Take me through what, I mean, you've trained guys like even Bernard Foley, Derek Hochard, you've been with Mornay Steyn, and particularly back in those days with the Bulls of Heineke Meyer. I mean, what happens? What you meet with the player? Take us through just a few of the things you do with the player.
Yes, Tony, funny enough, when they appointed me those days, I also didn't know what to do and how to structure my day as well, and what do I need to do, because it's also new to me. But I mean, you develop over the years and you do a lot of research. I'm still doing a lot of research from different sporting coaches at the moment, and I'm actually busy with a quite interesting one at the moment. But nowadays, I mean, you're busy analyzing all the opposing teams that you play on a Saturday or the 2 weeks ahead, and you're looking at the players, you're looking at different angles, you're looking at the way other teams play, how you can expose them, how you can pick up space in behind them, are the wings up early, how do you defend with 2 guys back, how do you defend with 1 guy back, which guys in the back line, the back 3 is not good under the high ball, which guys after 2-3 phases is sometimes quickly out of position. And then you have to present to the team, you have to present to your team leaders, and then you have to go out and practice all these plans, and hopefully they can get together on the team. So there's a lot of stuff that you do in front of a computer where you analyze quite a number of games. And Kennedy will know, because you're always looking for weaknesses, because teams nowadays are so well prepared and good organized in all the aspects. So you need to look for that 1 or 2% that can really give you an edge to put other teams under pressure.
I mean, you look at the game nowadays, that the kick pass, let's call it that. I mean, it's such a major part of the game now. So many tries have been scored that way, whether it's the your number 9 or number 10 straight over to the wing, ball, over the line. I mean, that just does not happen by luck, is what you're saying here, Vlok. That is well planned and well practiced, and you know your opponent.
Yes, I can think. I take us back to the Six Nations this year, where we play Wales, where we actually scored a try, where we played 2-3 phases to the left side of the field. So when we come back and we set it up in the middle, we know the left wing of Wales is sometimes in between, is sometimes up too early, and sometimes he's out of position. So we know when we play after 2 phases, we just have to kick a high ball onto him, and we did it in the game, and he was actually out of position, and it was 3 of our guys against their center of Wales, because the fullback was on the wing was on the other side. So actually worked well for us, and that's what you just mentioned, Tony. If you study and you analyze, then you can pick up here and there. You can pick up maybe holes or stuff that you can put them under pressure, and that is what you want.
When we're watching games as well, the other thing is we're talking about the use of the ball, the kicking the ball. It's not just posts, it's the up and under, the use of the up and under now. It's so well planned, the use of the grubber. Yeah. All of those things they just don't happen by chance anymore.
Yeah, so I think what people don't understand, or some might do understand, is that the kicking game has become so much more important. And back in the days, I mean, we don't even have to go that far. We can go back to Saturday's match. The North and South in New Zealand. Yeah. The try that was the winning try was a cross kick that was kicked in the 22. And I think Vlok would know that if Heineke back in those days saw you kicking in your 22, he would sub you immediately and say, get off that field. We don't kick in that area, you know what I'm saying? But because the kicking game and little grubbers and this type has become the norm, and the players have been given confidence, I think that's where a kicking coach comes in to give players the confidence to be able to make those kicks. Yeah. Whether it's a box kick, whether it's a territory gaining kick, everything has to be done to exploit any weaknesses.
Still on the kicking within the game or outside of the game itself. I mean, we watch you guys just before you get onto the park. Your fly halves, your number 15s, whoever's kicking for posts. You practice so much before the game itself. I mean, and that's part and parcel of the game itself.
Yeah, and I suppose it's just about getting rhythm, and I mean, Vlok would know. Rhythm as a kicker and confidence is everything. Yeah. So even if you get out there, sometimes I would go out in games, and the funny thing is a funny story. We were playing the Sharks in a semi or a final, and I usually kick like where the try line is, straight towards the pole, but I just maybe move 2 steps in, so there's virtually no angle. Yeah. And I just use that just to get my straightening of my ball. And I was kicking this. We were in Durban, and I was kicking them spot.
Final. Yeah, the Super Rugby final.
Spot on. I couldn't miss, and every ball was going through. It's almost like a meter gap. Yeah. And the supporters that were there started clapping, and they're like, "This guy is brilliant." And the funny thing is, we go into a game, and I got a kick that was in front of the poles, and I missed it, but the wind took it this way, and I'm sure they were like, "Well, what's going on here, mate?"
Before the game, you kicking all this.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny how practice does make perfect, but it's a game after all.
Okay, so let's talk about that, the kicking for posts as well. That's become, it's also it's a specialist thing now, isn't it? Because you've got certain players that can, and certain players, would you have a player who kicks for, what's it called, territory, and a player who kicks for touch, not for touch, who kicks for posts within the team? Can you differentiate those two?
Okay, Vlok?
Yeah, no, sorry, Tony. Yes, I think nowadays, of all the teams at the moment, the Flyers mainly do all the kicking. He do the goal kicking, and he also do the restarts. He will kick for touch for a penalty. But besides that, the scrum off, you have a certain role to play, from box kick, attacking kicks, distance clearance as well. And then you have your fullback, and you have a different role than the 9 and the 10. You have to do exits under pressure. You have to do clearance kicks. You have to go for distance. You have to do the running bomb. And with us now, the French, we at the moment looking for all our kickers, the 12s and the 13s, and our 2 wingers, both need to kick as well, and they need to kick with both feet as well. And I think Kennedy will appreciate that, because I think that the days are gone that just your 9, 10 or 15 can kick. You're such a better team if all 7 can kick in different areas on the field, and then you can bring in certain plays where you can use the 12, you can use the 13, and that is what we want to do at the end of the year, to kick more from 13, to kick more in the last 10, bring the weak up and find space. So yeah, they have different roles.
So, Vlok, you're going to be going to France. You're going to be assisting the French national team in terms of everything that you've spoken about now. I mean, they've got a young fly off Ntamak. I think he's about 20. You'll be working with him as well?
Yes, at the moment, I just have a Zoom meeting with him this morning where we actually just do a review on his game last Saturday with the top 14 that already started. And he's 21 years of age at the moment. He's quite young. He's the face of French rugby. He's quite a talent. I think a lot of a guy like in Tsimba, where he got the flair, he got speed, he got feet, he can kick, he can play, he can do everything, and he can read the game, which is important for a flyer. And then obviously Tony, our other flyer, Matthew Jalabert, is really unbelievable. He's 19 years old. So at the moment we have quite a young squad together between the age of 20 and 24. And that is Fabian. The whole philosophy is to get this young squad together for the next 3.5 years and develop them into a solid French team. And when you get into World Cup, then obviously all the guys will play 25, 30 plus tests, and that is what they want.
Listen, don't make them too good. Eh? I mean, reserve just a little bit, enough to win the Six Nations, but not against us. Talking about Galtier, I mean, Fabien Galtier, you played with him. You know Fabien Galtier really well, Vlok, as well. You're going to be working with him in this national team setup. I think you were together at Toulon.
Yes.
Can he turn the French team around? Because we miss the French team of back in the days with La Maison, all those guys, the French team that played really good rugby. Now it's just up and down. Tomorrow they'll be brilliant. The next day they're totally useless. Just talking about the French, can he do it? Is he the guy to bring back that French flair that we miss so much?
Yes, for sure, Tony, and I want Kennedy to come in here as well. And I think the one thing that Fabien said to us, obviously there's a lot of aspects that are very important for the French team, but the one thing that they always lack is discipline. Always some sort they will get a red card to a yellow card. And the next thing that he was worried about is inconsistent, because they will play against the All Blacks and they will beat the All Blacks each, and the next game they'll play against Tonga and they will maybe just win the ball. So you want more consistency. And obviously Fabien is a very structured coach. You want more structure. And that for the French team going forward is that we need to have more structure, that we need to play more in structure so that we control these guys and their talent and not let them go out and have a free-for-all and do whatever they can do, because then it's obviously very dangerous for the French team. So we need to use the French flair, but we need to do it in a very structured way. And we could already see it in the Six Nations this year. I think it's the first time ever that when we play Wales and England that we actually kick more than England or Wales team, which is the first ever for a French team.
Yeah, very true. Just talking about that, allowing players freedom, both you guys now in the coaching role. Sims, I know you're doing playing the specialist role as well now with Touch University as well. Yeah. I think it's defense, it's kicking.
And obviously going into transition.
What does that mean?
So, transition, I think, again, is something that I think will come out in the future. Yeah. It's the most important part of the game for me, which we're talking about the unstructured play. So we're talking about most of the tries, 60% of the tries are scored is often off broken field play, where a ball's been knocked on and the team then recounters. I mean, in New Zealand have scored 75% of their tries from So, I mean, coaches spend 80% of their time on lineouts and scrums and structured play, when that's only, a small percentage of the game. Yeah. So transition is about how you prepare a team from defending to attacking, and then attacking to defense. And that's part of it. And kicking comes into that, about looking for space. And so it's a whole element on itself. And
but I agree with you. That is the modern game now. So when you pick in a team, or you go into coach a particular team, do you look for particular players with certain skills? Because if the way I see your transition that you're talking about, when you see the New Zealanders do it, I mean, the skill level's got to be high, because they move that ball incredibly quickly, and exploit the spaces as well. So are you looking for a particular type of player who can do that?
Which is quite interesting, and this sort of taps into where Vlok is discussing about the French team now. I think it's actually a very good time to be in France now, because they have got so many good young players. If you look at the under 20, it's always good to gauge what senior teams are going to be like if you look at the under-20s. Yeah. Now, the French under-20 team has been very good in the past 4 years or so. Yeah. So they've got a whole good core of young, good players, which are very skillful. So I think coaches have to almost, you've got to be able to give those players problem-solving decisions, that they must be able to make a decision. Wherever I see space, I must have confidence to kick through, or I must be able to throw a long pass. So you almost get players, but try tool them to be able to make better decisions, because I think that's modern day rugby. And if everyone sort of in the system grows up in that way, and that's what they do in New Zealand. Yeah. Even if you go and watch a schoolboy team, they play like the Highlanders.
It's exactly the same.
Yes.
They play.
So it's all playing what you see in front of you. And if you can do that with almost structure, because they say within structure there's lots of freedom. So you almost have to have that a balance, right? And that's for me, that's modern rugby.
Because I wonder why. I often wonder, Vlok, when I look at some of the teams and some of the guys, usually your bigger guys, from a South African perspective, you're like, you'd rather, maybe let's say about 3-4 years ago, he'd rather die with the ball, go down with the ball instead of let the ball go. And you say, but why? Why did you just let the ball go? And who do you blame sometimes? Is that the play? Is that just the way we used to play our rugby and the way most of our kids learn it at school? Was that the coaches saying to the guys, you know what, I'd rather have a ruck, I'd rather have, let's have 3, 4, 5, 6 phases before we find some sort of gap somewhere.
No, I think it definitely, if you can call it blame, you have to blame the coach, because obviously a player play according to the rules and the structure that the coach wants. And a player will never go out of structure, because then he knows he has the opportunity or the chance that he can be dropped for the next game. So it's very difficult. So always you have a basic a set game plan. You have structures. You have certain calls. You play in certain areas. You do certain things and certain structures. So it's difficult. So that's why I said, and I agree, you need to have freedom. But also with freedom, I always say we say to the French players, with freedom, it also comes with responsibility. Yeah. And you need to make sure that if you want to run a ball in your own 22, you need to make sure it's 6 against 2 or 5 against 3, and there is space for you to attack. But when that space are closing, you also need to have the skill to kick that ball on the run in the last channel. We have our structure.
But Vlok, you were saying if you want to run a game, you must have the numbers advantage and so forth. But also, you get a player who can go past, who can create that gap. Be it a center who can, just make that space for the other players. Mm-hmm. Surely you can give him if he sees that gap, let him take it. If he sees that the defender might be a prop or something, let him go through, take that guy on. Surely that freedom is also there?
No, definitely right. So without giving away too much secret, so actually we have two guys. we have two guys in our setup that always looking for space. Yeah. We call it active space, and we call it dead space. So as you say, so we will play, and there will be one guy that's always looking what's in front of them. Is there a prop? Is there a hooker? Is there tight 5? And then there's a certain call that we can attack that chain. Of course, you can beat him with skill. You can beat him with feet and skill. And then you have another person who's always looking for the mismatches or the missed numbers, where there is space, and that is a silent communication. And also we have certain calls from the eye side. Well, if it's on wide and we have numbers, or we can do a kick pass, then we have the ability and the skill to execute that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, I want to just move on to and talk about South African rugby, where we stand at the moment. Okay, so we're world champs. That's fantastic, but I'm a bit concerned because we haven't kicked a ball in anger at all. I know we had lockdown and so forth, but we've been watching the New Zealanders play. We've been watching the Aussies play. We're watching a rugby coming out of Europe as well, albeit some of those teams are basically South African teams, to be very honest.
Yeah.
But you know, aren't you a bit concerned that we don't have a plan yet?
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest challenge with rugby all over the world. And I think even those New Zealand, Australia who are playing, they are literally, you know, playing without a real plan. I mean, the New Zealanders announced a squad, All Black squad. They don't know who they're going to play, but they're announcing the squad anyway. Yeah. But I just think it's one of those situations. But I think the most important thing is who can use this time wisely. Yeah. And start making different plans. And if it's about competitions, they need to start looking at what competitions work. And I think in New Zealand have got an advantage that they've tried a couple of things, yeah, and some of them have been successful. And it's about what brand, because I think the financial spend will differ for rugby and a lot of other sports going forward, yeah, after this period. So you've got to sort of reboot your systems and make sure that your own home ground is being taken care of, so that the youngsters can continue having a pathway to be able to want to play rugby. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest challenges South Africa is going to have is how do we go about that procession, because the fund and funding might go down a little bit more, and how do you then motivate youngsters who have been, you know, given a pathway of you, yeah, must become a professional rugby player? That might not be an option anymore. They need to study, they need to find sort of, you know, a system that works for them.
Yeah, very true. Vlok, where do you see us going? Because, you know, there's so much talk about us joining the Northern Hemisphere. You're going across there, you know that type of rugby. Does that suit us? Do you think that may be the way to go?
I just want to first just add on what Kennedy was saying. I think Kennedy just nailed it on the head. It is, I think if you look at the New Zealand games, I mean, it was full stadiums. You never see a full stadium in New Zealand, only with the Test rugby, not with the old Super Rugby. And I think that was an ideal opportunity for South Africa if you just could start earlier with an old local Currie Cup competition that Kennedy used to know and that we used to know. You have a home and away, and you have your top four playing in a semi and a final. And it was a great opportunity for us to revamp, redirect, or whatever you can call it, our rugby, bring youngsters through, create new things. And I think it's a bit too late now. I heard yesterday that the Currie Cup going to start the 18th of October. And that for me, it's near the end of the year. And it's going on to the end of January. So I think that is a problem. But yeah, and I think the second question, Tony, I think the All Blacks, if the All Blacks don't have the Springboks in the Tri Nation, I don't think they will be as strong as at the moment. I think we one of the only teams in the world that can match New Zealand, but can beat New Zealand on any day. I think Australian rugby is not in a good space at the moment. I don't think they have good enough players, and their systems are not good enough at the moment. So they're not a threat for Ireland or for Argentina as well. So we're the only team that can match New Zealand, and I think it will be a great pity and a shame if we have to leave the Tri Nations, have to go and play in the Northern Hemisphere. And I mean, we talk about it in the Six Nations. I mean, the guys in the Northern Hemisphere, the French guys and the English guys, they're so happy if New Zealand want to join, because they know that's they one of the world's best. They won 3 World Cups, and it's a good test for you to play against the world best. So for South Africa to go to the Northern Hemisphere, I mean, they will be welcome with open arms.
Yeah, I reckon that we will. But, you know, the problem with these type of things, you and Vlok, you mentioned the fact that, you know, the stadiums were packed in New Zealand because it was, you know, their derbies. But it all becomes, you know, you do that the first year, second year, third year, people are bored of it. You know, we played, and I think to a certain extent, Sansa milked it a little too much, because we were playing the All Blacks, 3 times a year? Yeah, 3 times a year, and we're playing Australia 3 times a year. That could also happen when we play against England and France as well. So we almost need to find a balance where there isn't overkill, isn't it? Yeah, it was just, it became a little bit too much.
I think, and that's where almost the prestige in terms of, I mean, when back in the years when Vlok used to play, for you to get a test against the All Blacks was the biggest thing, because that comes around once or twice in a year. Now you can literally play the same guys, because you play them against the Crusaders, you're basically playing the All Blacks, then you play them again 3 times in that, and it's just repeating, and after playing them 3 times, you play them twice at the World Cup. So in 1 year, you're almost playing them 6 times. So I think looking at all tours, the old tour system where England comes here for a full tour, that way your smaller unions can also generate money, because imagine England playing a match at Vlok against the Griffins, what that would do for that rugby community. So I think we've got to look at things like that. So I think it's important that we sort of do what's important for us and our future, and that way, if you've got a good Currie Cup and a good young under 20 or whatever it is, the Varsity Cup, all these competitions are healthy, then you can start looking at the more commercial side and see, you know. And I think, you know, between New Zealand and the Springboks, I think it's almost one of those like Batman and the Joker. They can't do without each other, you know, and it's important. So we can go and join the Six Nations. We might even struggle there, because those conditions, you have to play in them consistently to be good at it. How many times have we gone on tours to play Scotland, and they've unraveled us because of the conditions? But we bring them down here and we give them 60, 50 points. So that has to go into be put into factor. So there's a lot of thinking that has to be done, but I don't think we should be following the Australians or the New Zealanders. We need to take our own lead. That's
my bugbear. We don't seem to be coming up with a plan. I know we've got the Currie Cup strength versus strength, but it's only strength versus strength up to a point, because you've got Griquas and whomever else may come in. For me, it's just not enough. I want to see more. Just a quick one, guys, before I let you go. The youngsters, are we grooming a lot of youngsters? When you look at the schools rugby, you at St. Albans, college in Pretoria, you did very well. The 3 years you were with them there as well. A lot of kids coming out of that particular school as well. Vlok, let me just start with you. Are we on the right track? Are we getting the youngsters we need so that we win another World Cup in the next, 8 years?
See, I hope not I'm saying something wrong now, but I just think you mentioned it before, you and Kennedy, Tony, and at the moment, you can call it, we have a dead product at the moment. So if I was a youngster at the moment, and I was 20 years old, and I know I have the talent, and I can play Springboks in 2 years, or I can play women's rugby. But look at our local rugby at the moment. I mean, there's no under 19 competition anymore. We only have under 20 competition anymore. So it's difficult for a youngster to put up his hand and say, listen, here I am, I need a contract. At 20, I can play for the Bulls, or at 20, I can play for the Stormers. It doesn't happen anymore. So these guys are going overseas, they're going to Russia, they're going to Italy, they're going to Europe, wherever, of course, they want to have opportunity to play and expose themselves. So if we don't change our product, and if we don't change and create more opportunities, and say to the youngsters, listen, there's a healthy under 19 system, there's a healthy under 21 system. If you're good enough, you can have a contract, and if you're good enough, you can play within the next 2 years, you can play provincial, you can play Super Rugby, and then you have a closer a walk, and you can get to the Springboks. But at the moment, it's confusing. They take away the under 20s competition, and that is for any youngster at the moment is a red flag.
Kennedy? I think right now the only help and the most important thing is that it's a good thing Vlok is going to France, because he's going to prep all the secrets and everything for us when we go there for that next World Cup in 2023. So we need a lot of good information, Vlok. Don't let us down.
I will try my best.
You'll try, but listen, guys, thank you so much. It was lovely picking your coaching brains and your kicking brains as well. And it's just fantastic to know that at least, you know, we're on par with the rest of the world when it comes to specialist coaching. And we got, you know, our own guys like Vlok going over there, you know, to assist the French. And I mean, that's just fantastic from a South African rugby point of view. So Vlok, well done, and enjoy yourself when you're over there. When are you leaving again?
The 26th of September.
On the 26th of September. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here at NAMPO Vlok, Cilliers, and good luck over there with the Frenchies.
Thanks, Tony, and Kennedy, and all the best for you as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you, guys.
All right, Ken, it's same to you. Thank you, brother, for coming through to the studio. You're gonna stay with TUT. I think that's probably TUT calling you. They're good thing is that they need you on the field. You're supposed to be coaching right now.
We should be training, but somebody tell them that it's COVID times. We don't train.
We don't train right. All right, gentlemen.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, that's the sports chat for today here at NAMPO Virtual. Kennedy Tsimba, inductee into the Rugby Hall of Fame, and also Vlok Cilliers, a man who played over 80 games for Western Province from 93 to 98, and also played against the Barbers for the Springboks. And these guys are now leading South African coaches when it comes to the specialist tag. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.